We are learning that no relief for Hemant Soren is going to be there from the apex court also. We are not inclined to entertain the petition under Article 32. We leave it open for the petitioner to approach the High Court is what the apex court said. We are informed that they have already filed a plea before High Court under Article 226. Is the word coming in from the apex court regarding this entire saga between the ED and Hemant Soren? Arunima, a big setback. Arunima is our editor who continues to stay with us on the broadcast over this tussle between Hemant Soren and ED. Arunima, a big setback received to Hemant Soren from the apex court also.
Big setback. He was expecting relief from the Supreme Court. He was there challenging the very jurisdiction of the Enforcement Directorate to arrest him. The Supreme Court has refused to interfere in this matter altogether. What the Supreme Court of India has said, the first thing that they said is, why haven't you gone to the High Court? Because that's the judicial first step. The first thing that you should do is to go with your appeal to the High Court if you have a grievance against the lower court. So the Supreme Court asked, why have you not gone to High Court and gone to the Supreme Court directly? The court has made it very clear that they're not inclined to intervene at this moment. So the legal team of Hemant Soren now had the option of going back to the High Court. They filed a petition there which they decided to withdraw because the Supreme Court was also seized of the matter. But now I think the option before them is to go back to the High Court and plead their case there, and also watch out for what the special ED court in Ranchi says. Their ED had filed an application for 10 days of custody. Hemant Soren is in judicial custody for a night. So now we'll have to see whether by this afternoon the special ED court also comes up with a favorable order for ED, granting them 10-day custody. The day has not begun on a positive note for Hemant Soren.
Right, Arunima, please stay with us. Let's bring the highlights of this recent development in the case between Hemant Soren and ED to our viewers. No relief for Hemant Soren has been granted by the apex court. This is a big setback for Hemant Soren, as mentioned by Arunima. We have our legal correspondent Ananya Bhatnagar joining us on the broadcast. Ananya, give us all the details about the word coming in from the apex court, this big setback which has been received by ex-Chief Minister of Jharkhand.
Well, definitely a big setback coming in for Hemant Soren from the topmost court of the country, wherein Supreme Court has clearly refused to entertain the petition filed by Hemant Soren in this particular case, challenging his arrest, alleging that this is a political vendetta. Not only this, he has also stated in his petition that it is the Enforcement Directorate that is acting on the centre's behest in order to topple the government in the state of Jharkhand. However, the Supreme Court has a very clear view that he cannot directly come to the Supreme Court. He has to first approach the High Court, and that's exactly why the Supreme Court said that he should approach the High Court. In fact, the Supreme Court, in a little relief, has asked the High Court to decide this matter expeditiously and very quickly. This is a big setback coming in for Hemant Soren in this particular case. So definitely now the things are at the Ranchi court and in fact the Jharkhand High Court as well, when Hemant Soren would be knocking the doors of the Jharkhand High Court.
Right, Ananya, please stay with us. We have Arunima who continues to stay with us live on the broadcast. Arunima, let's talk about the claims that ED actually made against Hemant Soren. They said that they have very strong evidences to substantiate the claims they have made against Hemant Soren. Could you just quickly walk our viewers through those claims that ED has levelled against Hemant Soren?
Well, ED feels it has a watertight case against the former Jharkhand Chief Minister. The reason for that ED claim is that they have managed to recover documents and images from the mobile phones of one of the co-accused, and that image is actually that of land records, and there are further details in that mobile phone of social media conversations between Hemant Soren and his close aides with this co-accused, who was a former circle officer. So he was the officer in charge of land records there. ED feels it has enough evidence to show that how these lands, which were meant to be protected tribal lands or defense lands, their records were changed in the government files fraudulently, and subsequently they were sold off in connivance with the land mafia, and Hemant Soren was the direct beneficiary. That is the chain of evidence that Hemant Soren has against him. That's the chain of evidence prepared by the Enforcement Directorate, and based on that they are arguing before the court of law that there is enough to confront Hemant Soren with. That's why we require his custody. There are three things. Also, this recovery of 36 lakh plus rupees made from Hemant Soren's Delhi residence, that's also what ED is claiming.
that there is enough reason to believe that this cash recovery is the proceed of the crime, and we want to confront him. This money was recovered from the room that Hemant Soren used to use at his South Delhi residence, his bedroom, his cupboard. So we have to ask him, if this money does not belong to you, what was this cash doing in your bedroom, in your cupboard?
Right. Arunima, please stay with us. Ananya is now joining us live on the broadcast as well. He is our legal correspondent. Ananya, this setback that Hemant Soren's government has now received from the Apex Court, their next course of action as advised by the Apex Court is to knock the High Court's door, and I believe that they have already filed a petition there as well. What's next for Hemant Soren, and is there any chance of him getting any relief in this entire matter?
Well, definitely, Sakshi, the next move for Hemant Soren is to, go back to the High Court, and he had already preferred a petition under 226, Article 226 of the Constitution of India before the High Court. They had filed a writ petition before the Jharkhand High Court, and the Supreme Court, discouraged this practice of directly coming to the Supreme Court, clearly saying to Hemant Soren's lawyers, Senior Advocate Kapil Sibal and Senior Advocate Abhishek Manu Singhvi, that, this is a wrong practice and it might send wrong signals out there in the public that a person can, directly come to the Supreme Court, the High Courts, to our constitutional courts, and that's exactly why the Supreme Court did not entertain, in fact, and refused to entertain the petition that has been filed by Hemant Soren challenging his arrest, seeking a release, and clearly saying that, this is a matter that needs to go to the High Court first, and the High Court should decide it. In fact, a little relief was given to by the Supreme Court to Hemant Soren, wherein the Supreme Court actually urged the High Court to hear the matter expeditiously and to decide it expeditiously, but no kind of a time frame was given. So we'll have to wait and watch as to how things pan out at the Jharkhand High Court, and not only at the Jharkhand High Court, but today at the Ranchi Court as well, because the Enforcement Directorate would be seeking a 10 days remand, and this setback could actually prove fateful to Hemant Soren, because the topmost court of the country has refused to entertain his petition, clearly saying that he has jumped the forums and has directly come to the Supreme Court. He should have knocked the doors of the High Court. In fact, Additional Solicitor General S.V. Raju, who was appearing for the Enforcement Directorate, told the court that, they've already filed a subsequent petition before the Jharkhand High Court, and that too, even after that, they had knocked the doors of the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court very, very clearly and categorically refusing to entertain this particular petition, clearly saying it might send out a wrong signal to the public, and recording in its order that it is not going to entertain this particular petition filed by Hemant Soren. He should knock the doors of the High Court, and High Court is the one who will decide Hemant Soren's fate. But not only the High Court, the court in Ranchi, the special PMLA court in Ranchi, will also decide his fate, whether or not he'll be going to the Enforcement Directorate's custody. The 10 days of police custody remand had been demanded by the Enforcement Directorate yesterday. What changes? What are the arguments addressed by the Enforcement Directorate? What will be the arguments addressed by Hemant Soren's counsel, not only before the Ranchi High Court, before the Ranchi special PMLA court and the Jharkhand High Court, is something that only time can tell. We'll have to wait and watch for the hearings to happen today itself before, in fact, the Ranchi special PMLA court. Sakshi.
Right, Ananya, and if you could just quickly walk our viewers through the legal documents that have been submitted by the ED, as a remand copy was also accessed by CNN News 18. All the defense that ED has actually mentioned in this particular remand copy in order to substantiate the case against Hemant Soren. Could you just walk us through that as well?
Well, definitely. The Enforcement Directorate has gone on to say that, he had skipped, he was non-cooperative in nature, he was not cooperating with the investigation. Not only that, he had, ignored the arrest orders as well. And even after, ignoring those arrest orders, he went on to resign. Subsequently, he was later arrested, however. But the Enforcement Directorate is very, very clear and has mentioned in its remand application, not only in its remand application, but also in the grounds of arrest that were given to Hemant Soren's counsel and Hemant Soren himself, is that there are reasons to believe for the Enforcement Directorate that he is guilty of the offence of money laundering under Section 3 of the PMLA. And not only that, the Enforcement Directorate has gone in detail as to how Hemant Soren, by way of his accomplices, by way of his people who were his close aides, changed the status of that particular land, and acquired that particular property, and tainted money was generated from it, and in fact various cash was also recovered from his Delhi bedroom. So definitely a big setback coming in from the Supreme Court. However, the Enforcement Directorate putting forth a strong case before the Ranchi PMLA court today. We'll have to see as to whether or not Hemant Soren's fate would actually land in his favor, or would he be going to the Enforcement Directorate's custody today.
Yeah. Definitely, Ananya, a lot to come out in this entire saga. We'll keep coming back to you, and Arunima, thank you so much for walking us through all those details that we have received so far.